So I want to tell the audience, I know it's exciting for me and Doug's been a good friend, but for you guys, make sure to launch victory, but ask your questions. We'll be watching this. And the real purpose of this is to talk about all the integration. So to start in chat, who here was a huge Entourage fan or and still is? Let's hear it.
Crickets.
Crickets. They were active a second ago. Maybe people were taking that quick break because we fired right into it.
Me, huge fan. Huge fan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Doug, to start out, let's actually take it back a little bit. Like, what was the inspiration to start Entourage? Let's start with the basics, so to speak. Like, why start the show? Because obviously you were pretty innovative in a lot of the brand side of things, but what was that initial impetus?
So Mark Wahlberg, who was a friend, and his manager was my manager, and they kind of had a loose idea that they want to do something about Mark and his friends, and that's where the whole thing started.
Got it. And you just were like, sounds good. I like Mark. We're gonna go for it.
I mean, to be honest with you, I said a bunch of losers following a movie star around sounded like a terrible idea to me, to be honest with you, but. Steve Levinson, who was his manager, said, think about it and you'll figure it out. And that's what I did. I took my time and I thought about how I could really relate this to my life and my friendships and kind of mix and match with Mark's world. So
in that note, as you were saying, mix and match, did you want to always pull in the sort of real world? You had all these guest celebrities. Was that always part of the plan, or was that
that was the plan from day one. And in the pilot, we had one cameo did not show up, who I'll leave her name out of it. And we were scrambling. And then Mark Wahlberg was also a cameo in the pilot. And to be honest with you, we weren't even 100% sure he was coming when we were on the set. And I kept, texting or calling or whatever it was back in the day. I'm like, are you coming? And, he told me, of course he was. But that's how hard it was for us to get guests at the beginning. And then obviously it started to get a little easier.
Got it. And I was going to ask exactly that. Like, at what point was there a point where like publicists were calling you guys like, hey, we got to get Tom Brady on the show? Or was it, I'm not saying him specifically, but
yeah. I mean, usually by season 2, it was somehow people would call me directly, or through friends. I would get a call. LeBron wants to do it. Or, the Tom Brady thing came out, which I'm doing Eli Manning's podcast, I think next week, which I'm really excited for because I'm a diehard Giants fan, and Eli called me on my cell phone right after the Giants won the Super Bowl in whatever year that was, 6, 7, whatever it was, and said he wanted to be on the show. And then I wrote a whole script and he disappeared on me, and Mark got Tom Brady to do it. So I'm going to be on Eli's podcast talking about my last decade of being really upset with Eli. So
you get to call him out.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
On his turf. Awesome. Yeah. And so, on the brand integration side, were you heavily involved with that? Because you guys had, I know obviously we'll get into the Avion thing and that big launch, but you had all sorts of things from Wheels Up to everything they were doing. You guys had brands being plugged in. Was that also something you planned on?
Well, I was involved with all of it, but there was no real brand integration. I used things that I loved or they were my friends. Wheels Up it wasn't Wheels Up, actually. It was Marque then. Wheels Up hadn't even come out yet. And that's my friend from kindergarten, which is the same way Avion happened. But I put all of my friends on who had things that I liked and used, whether it was Mike Meldman at Discovery Land or cars that I loved, or Apple. To be honest with you, if you really look back, and when we launched in 2004, Apple barely existed. And I think we did the first FaceTime chat. That was only because I was doing that in my own life, not because Apple gave us any money for it or anything like that. And, the cars we put on were cars I loved. And, luckily I got some benefits out of some things as the years went on. Cadillac would let me drive a car or something like that. But, it wasn't really done as integration. It was done to further stories and to make the reality of the world seem, very grounded. So.
Got it. And so on that note, were you able to keep like any of the cars or anything? Did you actually get to keep something for yourself there?
You know what? I didn't get to keep any, but they did give me cars. Like every year I had a free car to drive around it, which was great. And, Porsche gave me I think I got the first Porsche Panamera in North America. I had to pay for it, but I think I got it a little earlier. But, we got some things, but I think we paved the way to really show people how they could organically integrate products. And Avion was obviously the perfect example. And that started out in a hot tub at my buddy Jake Steinfeld's house in Martha's Vineyard. And I was just looking for an idea for a business for Turtle. And my friends, Ken Austin was starting a tequila company. And he said, why don't you use that? And essentially I said, which when you really use a brand, you have to really talk about them, about what you can do and what you can't do. But I said, okay, you guys go do whatever you want, but I'm not going to worry about language or anything that's happening in here. And we're going to do the brand as we want. So because it was a startup, we got to do that. And they built it and sold it for, I think, 240 or 50 million bucks a few years later. So
did they have to give you a cut? You take equity?
No, they took a little care of me.
Definitely. All right,
They sent me a bunch of bottles, which is nice, you know?
There you go. You get a little tequila.
Yeah.
They get 250 million.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, obviously the importance of networking. So Ken also started Marquee, right? I feel like I know
Kenny Dichter started Marquee and Wheels Up. Ken Austin, who started Avion, started Proper 12 with Conor McGregor. And now, embarrassingly enough, I'm blanking on the rocks tequila.
Terramana.
Yeah, so that's also Ken Austin. I mean, he's a brilliant guy, and this would be. I think he sold a Proper 12 already. I think, but
was Avion his first dive into that?
I think it was his first startup, but he had worked at Marquee and he had worked at Seagram's. Maybe I don't want to give his wrong credits, and we had Bob Odenkirk play him on Entourage. So that was that.
That's awesome. And so how was that experience? I mean, again, this is more about that brand integration. Like you had an idea that you wanted Turtle to get into the startup game because you probably have seen in the world of entourages, there's always that guy in the entourage. It's like, I got a new idea. I'm going to start this new business.
Yeah. I mean, it was great. I mean, it was, again, very lucky that they were at a startup and they were willing to let me do what I wanted to do, because if we were doing that with Don Julio, it would have been, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't do this. So it was a perfect timing for both of us. And I didn't really expect that they were, I mean, I didn't doubt them, but I wasn't involved at all in them building their business. They said, we're doing this anyway, and if you can help us get a little rocket fuel on it, and that would be great. And as I said, I would do that for a lot of my friends, just if they would come in, Zico water, and Mark Wahlberg had his own water, Aqua Hydrate, which we put on. So we did all of that really more so to make things feel real. And like Matt Damon, when he came on the show, wanted to talk about his charity. So he said, I'll do whatever you want. I just want to make sure we push out my charity. So I wrote it as organically and real as possible while letting people know that he has this great charity.
And it might have been the best scene Matt Damon has ever done. And there's like a lot of good ones, but him calling Vince to donate was just a legendary piece.
He was
yeah. And so I'm curious on the brand integration side, like, again, you said it was friends and stuff. I'm sure you got hit up a lot by brands you didn't have friends with. Did you ever bring in like, oh, wait, this is cool. Like we got sent something, we're going to put this on the show, or was it really, you already knew about it?
I mean, I can't recall if that ever happened. I really did. Like, I'm such into new products and into cars. So a lot of it was things that I loved, or one of the guys loved, or one of the writers loved. Can't recall. Oh, you know what? Beats, which I didn't get a piece of. But Steve Berman called me and said, would you put these on? I'm not sure. I think we're the first Beats on TV. We ended, I think, season 3 with Turtle putting his Beats headphones on. So I think I got a few pair of Beats headphones, but I did not include myself in that $1 billion sale, or $2 billion, whatever it was. But I loved having these guys being at the forefront of technology and all of those things. So again, if I could go back in time, I would like to try to grab a piece of everything that I put on the show, but that was not really the focus. It was really about getting stuff that was cool and interesting and making it happen. So,
and on that note, did you guys charge for it? Like, was there a fee for some of these guys? Never.
Nothing.
Because I remember there was a rumor that Avion paid $10 million to be a part of the show. I heard that many times.
The entire raise on Avion, I was somewhere between $3.5 and $7 million. And I mean, that was to build that company. Yeah. $0 was paid to us to do that.
Got it. They just supplied the liquor and you guys.
There wasn't even liquor. I mean, when they started, we had they didn't even have bottles yet. So they started shipping us bottles that weren't even the ones they ultimately went to market with. So
that's awesome. I love that, the startup side of it. So as you think about the future, I know you're working on some new shows now. Has that become a big part of it? Like this brand integration, this part of it, like you're working on some things that are, hold some candles. You're working on a show in UK as well about the soccer team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on this football show with Thierry Henry. Unfortunately, Ted Lasso's the biggest show on TV came out at the same time, but we'll see. We got a really cool show. But yeah, for me, I'm not necessarily, as you know, I'm doing a lot of podcasting now and I'm having a great time with that. And I'm trying to produce more, but I was not going to create another show without having a part of all of those type of integrations.
Yeah.
I think, the model of how to make money is very different now. And the show I'm working out in London, I made sure if it goes and if it's successful, that if I do things, which, again, the audience knows when you do them just to sell stuff and it doesn't work. So you really have to find a way to do it in a way that makes it creative as well. And because the show I'm writing in London really lends itself to those types of stories, I made sure that in the deal I had, that if we ever did build, a Beats $1 billion business, I would share in that. So.
Listen, it makes sense. So on that note, from the brand side, where do you see the benefits of that? Obviously there are tons, but what do you think it's that they just get their name out there to an audience, they get that alignment? Like, what do you think, why should a brand be looking into this?
The biggest thing that I see is when, just like with an influencer, when you can get an audience attached to a character and they will tell you they love something, if you're watching something where you really respect that character, even though he's fake, I think it has a much bigger impact than just putting a commercial up,
Yeah.
And just like an influencer, if you follow, or a DJ whose music you love, when you find someone who you can trust their opinion and you feel like they're not setting you in motion for bad stuff. And, the reason I did that on Entourage, that's how I am with my friends. I'm usually the one who finds something cool and then I tell my friends about it. And they're like, oh, this is great. And they usually trust me. So I think it's the best way to sell a product, and to do it in a way that's story integrated makes it feel really real, and then people can relate to it. So.
Yeah, and real quick, just want to encourage audience to ask questions. I'll be checking out the chat. I'm paying attention to it. So if you have questions for Doug, please fire away. Yeah, when we talk about marketing, we always talk about sort of the three principles: awareness, nurturing, and trust. And I think when you get one episode, one product placement on a show like Entourage that so many people loved, you get that awareness piece, but you also get that trust piece. If they're plugging this in, if it's, again, the rumors start flying, but Avion's probably, already raised $10 million and they pay these guys a whole bunch and they're really in, Doug probably went through a sniff test. He probably loves the tequila. So does Adrian Grenier and all these people. So that's how people think. It quickly goes to that. Yeah. And then as you continue to integrate, if you can get, like you did, almost a season around it, or I can't remember how long that lasted in the show, that creates that nurturing effect where you see it over and over and over again. And I remember I was like I don't want to say the perfect age group, but when Entourage started, I was 18.
Yeah.
So when it came out, and so we'd sit in college, my buddies and I would, I know we're underage, sorry to admit this publicly, but we'd buy a bottle of cheap champagne and drink it while watching Entourage because it was like our thing to do on Sunday, a bunch of frat guys at Arizona. And when we graduated, I came to LA, and I remember my friends started to move here thinking they were coming out to live Entourage. And I have one friend in Pacific, I won't call him out, but he definitely moved here as business started to take off for me. And basically he had watched Entourage, I think 3 times in a row, like watched over and over and over again. And he came out here and hit the ground and had just met my wife. And I remember him being like, well, this sucks. What happened? I thought we were going to go out and take over Hollywood. What's going on?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. And again, like the way we did it on Entourage, we went through like some of the hiccups of what a startup and what my friends who were doing it behind the scenes were going through. So it wasn't when you just have a brand who says, okay, put our brand on, make us look great, and make sure everybody talks really nicely when they talk about us. We weren't doing that. I mean, we had, a sex scene where, there was a bottle of the tequila and stuff. So it was really integrated in a very realistic way. And again, it was done that way because I told those guys at Avion, I said, you're not getting scripts. You're not getting any control of that. And that's one of the difficult things with a brand because they are so controlling when it happens. And I think to me, obviously you don't want crazy stuff going on with your brand, but I think the more grounded and realistic you can make it, the better for me. So.
Yeah. No, 100%. So, got a question. Is there anything from the cutting room floor behind the sneaker episode? Did you envision the sneaker community growing since then?
You know what? We didn't have a lot of stuff that didn't make the show. Like, it was written so tight and we spent so much time on it. But sneaker culture was really exploding then. That's why we wanted to do it on the show. Could I have known? Even those Entourage sneakers just sold at Christie's or Sotheby's for like $95,000. So no, of course I couldn't have anticipated that. And everything that's happening with collectibles right now in general is nuts. But I was always a person who loved sneakers and sneaker culture. But I don't think anyone could have envisioned the explosions that have happened over even before us. I mean, really over the last 20 years. So.
And did you keep any of the sort of the collectibles from the show? Did you get a pair of sneakers, Fukijamas? I think they were.
Yep. I got a pair. I think they made, I don't know what was behind the scenes, but for us, all the actors got one, all the 5 guys. Cool. I got a pair. Mark got a pair. Rob Weiss got a pair. So hopefully it keeps growing. It's sitting in my garage, nicely protected. So hopefully it keeps growing.
But is that the nest egg plan to save those until you need to retire?
That's going to take care of my kids' future, I hope.
And so since again, you've, and I'm putting you on the spot here, I know I didn't prep you for this, but what are some cool things you've been seeing out there that, like, given the show you're filming now or what you're doing in the future, what are some things you think you would want to incorporate? What things are exciting? Because you guys really were at the forefront. I'm also talking a little bit to give you time to think about it, but
yeah, no, that's all right. I mean, I don't know specifically like that because I do go as a day-to-day. Yeah. I know virtual reality and integrating these games, which we did. I mean, we put Johnny Drama on the Godfather game. EA helped us put him in a scene with Marlon Brando. But the virtual reality stuff and is so mind-boggling, and where that's going to go and what a show's going to look like in even 5 years from now. So a lot of that stuff interests me. But again, it's all just, it's all the technology as it grows. I was so obsessed with making sure they had the new iPhones and this, and it's weird when you look at Entourage now, when they're starting out with the star attacks and they sort of slowly grow with the world as it was happening. So.
No, it makes sense. So what would be your advice to, there's a lot of brands in the audience, a lot of brands speaking here this week. We're going to be putting this on YouTube as well. Your advice for the brands, like, as you said, that it was your friends. It was people that were your friends that you put on the show or things you really like. So other than have a good product or network your ass off, what would be some advice to breaking into that side? Since it's, you just mentioned it, Avion sold for whatever, $250 million. Like, obviously there's a decent strategy there if you can align it well. And you may mention that as well, but what is your advice?
Again, I don't even know how I would give advice because I'm not even sure what the networks allow right now and let people go in. So it's a complicated system. And again, I know how precious people are with their brands. You want to protect it and this and that. But and I also know how creators are with their brands as well. So I think the best thing is to align with someone who has similar thoughts about whatever your product is and find ways to integrate them naturally where they feel like they are in the world the way they should be and the way that the product maker wants them to be.
And thinking about that, let's say, hope if you're in LA, it becomes a little easier because maybe you can end up at a party with someone that is on that side. But what is that way to align with someone? Like, that's the part that, and I know it's a tough question, but what is that way? You're a startup founder in Iowa, in Ohio, somewhere that's not necessarily close to LA. And you were like, hey, we think that an entertainment aspect of this could be really good. The cold email seems to be a tough one, but maybe that is the way to go. Or do you just send it? Like, what do you think is the best?
I get, even with just the podcast, I get products all day because people think I can pump them out on the podcast. So unfortunately, that's probably the best way to go. But you know better than me. Talking to the publicists, talking to the agencies, those are the ones that can kind of send a blanket thing out to all of their clients and stuff. Again, for me, I like the personal connection and I like to find stuff, and we've done it. It's a friend, but my buddy Jake Steinfeld, who I think as well, he's got this Don't Quit energy drink now. And again, just like I did on Entourage, I talk about this on my podcast because I like it and I use it. I don't own anything. Mush, which was a Mark Cuban startup on Shark Tank, it's just a product that I liked eating, so I start talking about it because it works. So yes, I believe that the first thing you need to do is have a great product. That's part of the key. But then I think it is aligning with the agencies. And, weirdly enough, though, you can reach out nowadays on Instagram and get some responses that you probably wouldn't have gotten even 5 years ago. So
awesome. So we got another question from the audience. Is there anything from Oh, they were regurgitating that. Never mind. Started to read it. With that, I think that's good, man. I really appreciate you coming out.
Absolutely,
And
you got it. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. And up next, guys, we're going to have boost your business growth with multi-channel reporting that actually matters with Maripost. Awesome software. So thank you, Doug. This has been awesome. Thank you for coming out.
See ya.
Yeah.